Billy. I run Open Books, a poem emporium, and we are absolutely delighted to be partnering with Amber to celebrate their incredible new collection and all of the amazing artists that they're having on this tour, virtual tour that they're offering in anticipation of what we're excited about for their in-person event here at the store sometime in the fall. A little background on Open Books. We've been in business for more than 30 years and recently moved to Pioneer Square from our first home in Wallingford. We love in-store visits, we love online customers, and we're happy to see you whenever you come. You can find us online at openpoetrybooks.com or come say hi.
Hello, y'all. Thank you for watching, the one person who's watching and thumbs upping. We're so glad to have you here. I'm Amber Flame, and today I am joined by two of my best friends, my collaborators, my conspirators, definitely the reason why Apocrypha happened and is good, because they started from the very beginning. So I am so thrilled to bring Anna Vodicka and Breezy Janae to the stream. Hello, Anna. Hi, Breezy.
Hello.
Hi.
This was the easiest one to set up. I was like, hey, y'all want to talk about religious shit? And you're like, yeah, I mean, we kind of end up doing this a lot. This is not new to us. This is true to us. Breezy and Anna and I met in 2017 at Hedgebrook while we were on residency. And ever since then, I mean, pretty shortly after, I feel, we started collaborating. We started having little writing sessions. But what's really impressive is long before the pandemic happened, long before Zoom meetups and all that stuff were a thing, our group, our cohort from Hedgebrook has been getting together monthly, pretty much every month since 2017, and has built this really lovely, generous, reciprocal partnership. Breezy is definitely my main squeeze, my main writing partner. Anna has gotten me into prose and is like my hype person on like writing prose, and I trust her because she writes the shit out of some prose. So that's my hype. That's my story. Let's get into it. We're talking a biblical proportions, and we all have very, very different relationships to Bible, to God, to church. So where did you start and where are you at with the whole Jesus thing?
Such a tiny question, Flame. Such a teeny,
For a Sunday afternoon,
simple question.
Diving right into the deep end of the pool. I love it.
Like, let's start with history, like the facts. Like, how were you raised? You were raised to believe what? I know, and I'm gonna share, but like, Anna, you have some crazy shit to say about this. Go.
So I was born in the 80s in the upper Midwest, and basically like the height of the moral majority and like satanic panic. And some people will know what that means. Some people will not. But basically my parents, like, they were already religious folks, and they got really into televangelism in the 80s. It was also the height of televangelism. And if you've seen like the recent, when did it come out? A couple of years ago, The Eyes of Tammy Faye with Jessica Chastain. She won the Oscar for Best Actress. If you have not seen it, I highly recommend it, just as like a slice of a really quirky American subculture, but one that like became really powerful. And I think in some ways, like, Trump is the like natural extension of this.
Absolutely.
Essentially prosperity gospel and of wealth, right? Was sort of what they were preaching. They were also preaching when Tammy Faye, these were our sort of celebrity preachers we watched from our living room. She really preached like God is love and love everyone. And so there was this real juxtaposition of like, God wants you to be rich and prosper, and then also like love one another. God damn it. She was like the first person to interview a gay man with AIDS on live television, like a national television audience, and their TV station was like, number 3 in terms of like popularity and how many people were tuning in at the time. So she was really progressive in a lot of ways, and actually later on became a huge gay icon. But first, like, Jim Baker went to prison, and like it was the sort of I was like very formative, young, tender age when all of this was going on, and it turned out they were just like embezzling.
First the crime, and then the gay icon.
But before that, we were lifetime members of their Christian ministry, which was called People That Love. PTL stood for apparently People That Love, or they had like a huge empire in South Carolina that we would road trip to once a year. They had a religious theme park there. So the first vacation I remember taking was to their religious theme park in South Carolina. And I guess I would fold into this so I was technically non-denominational. But this was like sort of charismatic religion, speaking in tongues, faith healing, definitely miracles happening all over the place. And then my rebellion as like a middle schooler after like all of this went down was to join a church, like a physical church. So I joined the evangelical church in town. I was the only one in my family. I'm one of 6 kids. So I kind of broke away to do my own thing, and then eventually had a crisis of faith in the middle of a mission trip when I was 15. So slow unraveling after that, but that was the turning point.
Wow, that was succinct and also contained details that I did not know and or did not remember. And you put perspective, like you and I came up in a time, right? So there's that piece of it, but there's also like now people are talking about things that were like our lived experience. And so it's a little like close to home, which we'll talk about too. We'll get back to that. Breezy, tell us about the environment you were raised in.
I don't know. We like, it's so weird. We went to a physical church like often, but then there were also like periods when my parents just like didn't go to church. There were also periods where I would go to church multiple times a day with my grandma, and was in like multiple church choirs. I grew up in this also non-denominational church, but like definitely had its roots in like Black Baptist, Southern Baptist traditions. And they were like progressive in the fact that in the sense that they welcomed everyone, and like young people would clearly be like coming straight from the club, or like the club, maybe like brunch, and then they would go to church all in the same clothes, maybe like throw on a shawl at most.
Wow.
And that was cool, that was fine. And there were queers, but then there were also like queers who were like saved from their homosexuality, so that was like a thing. Yeah.
And did you believe young? Were you like ever really in?
Yeah, no, I was in there. Like I like got baptized at 8 because I wanted to get baptized, not because like, I mean, my grandma was definitely like preaching the gospel at all.
Of course,
times.
Right.
But I wasn't like forced into it. Like I wanted to get baptized. Like that was like, because I was like all in, like, especially like a kid with like in a turbulent environment, we'll say, with parents able to provide like minimal emotional support, this idea of like a sky daddy, a father in the sky who's like here for you. Like my favorite little scripture was like, when your mother and father forsake you, I'll be there for you. And I was like, thank goodness, because these is some forsaken ass.
Because I is forsaken.
Yes.
I have been forsook.
So it's like it was very, it like, and I'm not even like mad at it. Like it served a purpose. It got me through childhood and adolescence. It gave me a place to go to cry on Sundays because it was like socially acceptable to be broken in church, but like, like it was like awkward at certain points where I was like, I'm not gay, but like I have gay homies and they can't come here with me, that's like, that's like strange, it's a little uncomfortable. Um,
You feel
you know,
a little uneasy.
yeah. And then it turned out I was gay, and I would still go to church, but like I didn't feel comfortable inviting my partner, my girlfriend, when I was dating her because I didn't want her to be hate crime, us to be hate crimed.
And won't he
And
do it?
yeah, yeah,
Won't that
yeah,
Christian do it?
yeah. I think there were like three things that got me to eventually leave church. Number one, it was like the Sunday before Thanksgiving, they were giving out turkeys. And this pastor was like, I'm only giving turkeys to the people who was at service, the whole service. And I'm just like, sir, like, Jesus didn't say feed the motherfuckers who showed up on time. He said, feed them.
Who stayed and listened to everything you had to say.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. That was just like, ew, can't go back there. I was like walking with my then girlfriend, and this girl who was like clearly having some sort of issue looked at us and was like, you're going to hell. And I was like, all I have done is try to be the good Christian person, and I'm going to hell. Okay. And then I went to church after like having a fight with the same girlfriend, and I was just like, I don't know, this motherfucker's useless. Like, I can't bring my girlfriend here. You done got me with this girlfriend who's like fucked up. Like, I was just like, it's just not adding up. The math is not mathing. It's not making sense to me.
And also, like, let's be real, Sky Daddy did not solve the problem of the turbulent environment. He did not take you from anything.
It was just a nice little fantasy, and like fantasies have their place. And I often think about like what role like religion and faith and belief in anything, because like sometimes it like gets on my nerves when people are like talking about their like big three and like their moon signs and rising and the stars and stuff. I'm just like, you just replaced in Sky Daddy with the big rock. Like,
y'all just want a higher power to believe in.
Yeah, but like also I'll be the first one to start praying when shit go down.
Right. You're like, just suddenly found my Christianity.
Should
my
there
faith.
be a God? Should there be a God out there?
I mean, I'm willing to accept all prayers. That's what I say. Like when the highly religious, not in-laws, but partner family is like, well, I'll pray for you, sister. I'm like, I will take it. I will take your blessing. Please put the blessing upon me. Let's like get clear about your language, because I mean, you can pray for me to be saved. I will take a salvation. I'm all right with that. Yeah.
But also, like, could you do something also?
Right. Could you also assist? Yeah. Help. Yeah. Is there a way you could intercede? This is so interesting. Like, I think that definitely, there were no gay people. I was a zealot. That's what I realized listening to both of you. I was a zealot. I was soul, kit and caboodle on the whole thing. I was a prophet. And so this, like, I don't know, whatever it is that just the empath or whatever that is still active now in me, it was like, I was getting words from God. We had a personal relationship, me and the Lord. Like, and like to your point about the Father, like our favorite scripture was like, he's father to the fatherless and, like to the widowed women. And my mom was a single mom with biracial kids in Arizona in the 80s and 90s. Like, it sucked in brief. The church was definitely like fundamentalist. And when I say like it's cult, like I've been like, something is calling me back for sure. There's like an investigation that needs to happen because like I'm thinking like Billy Graham and what happened there. James Dalton, Family Values or whatever. He put out a whole series of videos. You know who I'm talking about?
James Dobson.
Yeah.
Dobson Road. Yeah. Wasn't right? One about beating kids?
Yeah. The Rapture films that we watched, like those were the movies I saw. I didn't see regular ass TV. We didn't have TV.
Terrifying.
They were
Yeah,
terrifying.
I
And
like for
so
years prayed every night, like, please don't leave me behind.
please do not leave me behind. I do not want to be here when the water turns to blood. I don't want to be here for the
Yeah.
infestation of locusts. I don't want to be here when it rains frogs and we get
I was
boiled.
so
Like,
scared.
save me from the plagues.
Forget the
Yeah.
monster
So
under my bed. I was scared
listen,
of the person who was supposed to be there to love me and like
right.
take care of me.
Rule in
Like,
fear. Yeah.
yeah.
I remember the moment when I started being like, wait a minute, was when it was the first time there was like a secular critical look at the Bible. It was freshman honors English class. And we read Job and talked about it. And I was like, wait, God is a motherfucker. Like, what the
Yeah.
hell? Like,
Yeah.
you're gonna fuck your dude over and think it's okay because you replaced his wife and children and riches? Like, they're dead. You killed them. You let them die. Like, it's so wild, the things that we just
Yeah.
like. But I think that's also some of the magic that I got to inherit. To your point too, Breezy, of like, I learned how to suspend disbelief. I learned how to imagine safety and shelter. I learned, like, yeah, I've absolutely replaced God with astrology, and I'll stand by it. Damn it, like, it helps me think of that like wider perspective. And I think there's something in me that definitely craves like the joining together of people. There's so much, Anna, I saw miracles too. Like, we laid hands and we prayed over people. Miracles happened. I saw it. And so I know what belief can do. I know what we're capable of with what we believe can happen. And that's also scary. Like, humans are incredibly powerful and incredibly ignorant to how far they're willing to go. Like, I'm really aware. I can go all the way there, and so can you. So there's something like really raw, I feel, that the cult taught me about this. Have you watched the How to Build a Cult? It's like narrated by Peter Dinklage. It's on Netflix, and it's like a 5-part series.
I saw that, but I didn't watch it.
Yeah, I was bored. Oh, it was when I threw up my back because I'm old. And I was on the heating pad. I watched it, and there's also like Hill House or something like that. There's something on Hulu right now, but people are like doing this investigation of like, how do cults come to be? And it is really fascinating because like, I wonder how much of it is, I don't remember anybody selling me on a personal relationship with God. Somebody definitely sold me on, to have a personal relationship with God, I had to be a part of the church. And so whatever the church said had to be true, even if it didn't feel right, because I couldn't know by myself. But I had my own relationship with God, and I would come back to God with questions, right? And so when that fell apart, the church wasn't enough to hold me. I was like, fuck y'all. You are all trash. And they were really like not kind to us. And so like, God was the shelter within the community that also trashed us, which is a very strange experience. And now, like I said, I'll accept it. I'm like, my mom was a philosopher who was a Christian, and she died like believing Jesus Christ was her Lord and Savior, and also like that there's a thread of truth in all like belief systems, and that is like essentially love your neighbor as yourself. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Like, those kind of simple adages are found in everything, essentially. Like, don't be a shit human, and treat the world, the like earth, with kindness, which we fail at miserably. But have you like,
although I think sort of Christianity can be sort of like anti taking care of the world.
Christianity is, but Christ isn't, wouldn't you say?
When did Christ say take care of the earth?
Well, he was all about like, I mean, I think you can point to various places in the New Testament where it's like he's caring for the animals. I mean, they call him the shepherd, and the church is the flock, et cetera, et cetera. But
he ended sacrifice, like sacrificial lambs. They were no longer being brought. Like, he's like, I'm the ultimate sacrifice, so you can stop killing animals.
Right.
Rudimentary.
Yes.
No. Okay.
I'm curious, was that English class the beginning of the end for you? I mean, because I think it's so interesting, like these little like sort of fissures that sort of happen in the foundation of our faith when we're raised in it. It's like there's this bedrock, and then these little fissures can happen, like Breezy mentioned, maybe like the way that gay people were treated, and you notice that, and you're thinking, wait a minute, like God said love everyone, so how, this is like kind of, you know, there's a friction here, and there's some like some light coming through this crack, and like some people will like patch over the crack and just keep on going. Blame, like you mentioned that English class, like was that like the instigator, or what caused the unraveling for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a ultimately, like, I was a zealot, and when it didn't work, I was like, no, fuck this. You know, like I'm very much like, when I'm done, I'm done. And you know, you can't go silent on somebody when they need you. So it was like an abandonment thing. And I was like, when God abandoned me, I was like, okay, homie, then peace out. You know? And like the leap from that to like Buddhism, which I've been practicing for 20 plus years now, is like the like no God thing is hard, because like I'd be like, Jesus help me, oh Lord, you know, like in a second, and kind of mean it, you know.
But like also, I don't think there's anything, there's like the thing I like take from religion, or like keep from religion, is that like regardless of whether or not I believe any of it, it certainly allowed my grandparents and my ancestors to survive pretty horrible things, you know, like that belief in an after,
and in salvation.
And like in a God that like loved you equally, you know, when the world didn't. Certainly like did a lot for people. And like, so I can like respect that sometimes.
Yeah.
So like the cultural piece.
Yeah. And so like saying like mercy, Lord, is like me just like repeating what I heard, you know, and just being like, oh no, it worked for these hoes.
It worked for these hoes. Maybe it'll come through for me. Right. Sorry, Ed, what were you saying?
I was just gonna say, like, that those are things too that are like consistent across cultures and various religions. It's like it's so important to have time for introspection, to like sit in whatever your version of prayer is, and like to have mantras, or like I think of, you know, Jesus was like exactly what my mom taught us to say if we were in crisis, and still it's the first thing that comes to mind if I am in a sudden crisis. Jesus, you know, it's like an incantation. It's something that gets you out of your body and head for a second, you know, and it's like this idea of like just a cry for help. So all of that still feels, it's ritual too, right? I mean, it's so important to have ritual.
And like I think about the fact that like even across cultures, like access to like actual mental health help, and like workers, and like kind mental health workers, you know,
right, or spiritually aligned, or
is not really been a thing. Whereas like the church is a place where like you could come and like have your emotions, have your feelings, have and have it witnessed by a community, and it be okay, you know.
I think about it with my kid, like how I grew up in a practice, right? Like any other practice. If I had grown up playing sports, right, then that would be in a practice of something, of like arriving to something nearly every day. Like I always say, 6 times a week and 3 times on Sunday, we were at fucking church. It was a practice. We knew how to pray. We knew how to sit in silence and not fall asleep. We knew, like, there are so many things that I'm realizing now as I'm trying to instill daily consistent effort into my life for my self-care, like as I'm trying to learn to be my own beloved. I am like, oh, I know like it's a callback to something that I had, whereas like my kid, you know, like sees me being witchy and like knows that I have these rituals and things that I do to like ground myself or check in or whatever, but he doesn't have them. And I wonder about it, like I'm waiting for the curiosity. And I also see that like we're all kind of grasping for, like you said, astrology, crystals are big right now, you know, tarot, like all the things that we've done, we've, you know, engaged with other people. And it's talking the language of astrology. That's like just another like prayer, right? That you're like, oh, it's Channy Nicholas dropped the Sunday episode. Time to listen to my horoscope for the week. You know, like it's its own ritual, like you said, Anna. And I think we as human beings, that's part of how we know, that's like our social need. It's a social need.
But like some people exist as like atheist. And I'm curious, like what do they
believe?
What do they replace it with? Like what is spirituality?
Well, wouldn't you say that's like science?
Yeah,
like,
I'm kind of an atheist. I'm not like an evangelical atheist, but I like, I mean,
you don't have to be an atheist, but I'm an atheist.
Well, I mean, I think of like God as love with a capital L. Like, you know, I don't really think there's a being, right? I think so. Science, Buddhism to some degree. I mean, I have a total like fear of joining anything at this point. It's like total PTSD. I can't even do like a weekly gym class or something.
Yo, I like cannot, like even trying to find like yoga on YouTube. Like I cannot stand them telling me to like do anything.
Yeah, like it's got to be a graphic, like an animated drawing of somebody. And even then, I'm irritated with the ponytail. I'm like, why do you give this bitch a ponytail? Like, I don't need a ponytail. The ponytail's not part of the exercise. Like, like, yeah, I get irritated with it telling me what to do. We have problems with authority. Like, this is why it couldn't stick. And my mom absolutely, when I got kicked out of children's church, my mom was like, okay, because I wasn't going back. Nah, fuck that. She said I was the worst kid in children's church. And I was like, peace. And I never went back. And it was like, it's this weird, like, I was just talking to my sister about this weird, it was a community in which we were ostracized. And so it brought us closer to God. And now we like, but it also like made us prove ourselves in a way. And so like, one of the things that me and my sisters love is that my mom was like a success story. She went and got her doctorate. None of her sisters got their doctorate, you know, like, you know, she raised 3 kids by herself and we're all like fucking brilliant. I'm the stupidest of the bunch and I'm really smart, you know, like I'm serious. Like I was like, my sisters are fucking brilliant. Like, I come from really smart people. And there's this like, I mean, I've talked to you both about this as my friend, but like there was this need to give up proving my worth because that's what you do with God. Like you show up and you become more and more Jesus-like, which means like to go above and beyond and like to be Christ-like was like the first training, you know, the first training in putting that pressure on yourself to be like, are you worthy of salvation? Are you worthy of love? Are you worthy of not being left behind and abandoned? And like, it was fear-based, but like, at what point did it just become, that's how I keep love, right? That's how I
it's
show
honestly
myself
though,
love.
I never felt like I had to be worthy, but I always heard this, there was like this rhetoric of like, I'm nothing, you know, without God, or like I'm a useless sinner. I am impure. I am dirty. I am blah, blah, blah. And like only God. Like, and no matter what I do, I'm like still like I hope like that like got me. Like I was in therapy, like, I don't know.
To become nothing.
Posturing of like being really like worthless in this like spiritual relationship, I feel like it's leaking into other relationships, you know, like damn, I was just like born this way, like and like
I woke up like this, that's it,
like, and I was just terrible
and now you're fucked. Yeah,
it didn't make sense.
Not only that, but like we were encouraged to, I mean, everything good that you did was of God, right?
Yes.
So like
all glory to God.
All the fucking credit.
So like nothing good came from me. I never learned to associate like goodness or to have a sense of pride in anything I did, because pride was also sinful. And then, but the bad stuff was like, oh, you're listening to the devil. So like the devil's in my head for one thing. That's terrifying, you know.
A little bit,
you know. So yeah. I'm with you, Breezy. These things have taken decades to untangle. Not to mention, I mean, especially Flame, I know you like grew up in the 90s. Like our teenage years were the purity movement.
Oh
And
my God, yes, like purity
true
pledges.
love waves. So
And
Yeah.
also like, I mean, like I remember the campaign about prayer in school and going to like the Supreme Court and like donating thousands of dollars as churches, you know, from all sorts of locations to government, I don't know, PACs, super PACs, who knows? Like to like make sure we could pray in school and that God wasn't removed from school. Like wild shit. And then you like, for me, it was like such an emergence into the real world. Like that was the fissure. When I moved up here to Seattle and I saw queer people walking around holding hands, and I was like, wait, just like that, like that's it. Like it was like, I mean, and I had been in San Francisco working and all that stuff. It wasn't that I hadn't never seen it before, but it was like, that's when I realized that I was free. I was out of Arizona. I got the fuck out of Arizona. And that's what needed to happen, was I needed to be out of Arizona.
Yeah.
And when I was free and I was like, oh, I'm in charge. Like I pay my bills. Like I can go get weed. Oh my God. You know, like those moments of like, I could be queer if I wanted to. And like, nobody would even have to know because nobody's here. I can reinvent myself. And I think that's like, I will say, I think that's some of the magic that I got from growing up in the church was this idea of being born again, this idea of like rebirthing yourself as like something new and no longer this and suddenly this. And we love, Amber Flame loves a sudden transformation. Like, give me drama. Give me like, what? It's a reveal. Like, I love that idea. And so I'm thinking about like, okay, so for Apocrypha, I pulled very much from my erotica in Song of Solomon in the Bible. That shit is still sexy, still steamy.
Yeah.
I really very much, I love how much I learned about form. Like there's epistles in the Bible, you got the Psalms, you've got the Proverbs, like you have little spells. I think of like how much I learned from the stories that were told. And so I'm thinking about like what things I've been able to keep as like treasures, as true. It's like, honestly, it's like the privilege of being able to grow up with readers or grow up with people who read and understood Shakespeare. I'm thinking about that now. And I'm like, I still have my tales from Shakespeare, like adapted for children. And I'm like giving it to Virgil. And I'm like, right. Like, because we try to watch Much Ado About Nothing with young, fine ass Denzel Washington. And Virgil was like, what the fuck are they saying? It's going way too fast in Old English. I don't know what they're saying. And I'm like, oh, that's fair, because if you don't grow up with these sort of languages. And so I think of like, especially, I think I've like really cut the church idea. Like church just seems really strange to me even now. Like I drive past churches and I'm like, people go to those things like all the time. Like they didn't shut down. They're not like gone. You know, it's like Mervin's is no longer. Montgomery Ward's is no longer. Why do we have?
And they invest so much of their time and money,
so much
you know,
money.
and so many of these churches will be like, you need to give your 10% before.
Right. They've been giving 10%
before people, they'll be saying that
empty
shit.
pockets, out of empty pockets. I remember my mom giving tithe.
Yeah.
Gave tithe faithfully. Never came back. Never came back. Yeah. So like, it's just why that part of me is like, feels very extinct. It feels very like ancient almost, you know, like, wow, I can't even fathom why I would be in church.
I miss the music. I miss the visual.
Yeah.
You know,
that's
like,
why I go to concerts.
I literally was like, just like playing like videos of like church choirs.
Wow.
Oh yeah, no,
It's
like me and gospel music are like, but like I have a rule or like a general rule. It's like if I can't sing the song to myself as God, to my lover as God, or to my dog as God,
come on,
then I shouldn't be singing the song.
Like I love that.
Yeah, like if like in most of them you can replace your dog, your boo, yourself with God, and it's like affirming, it's loving, it's whatever. But some of them are like, I'm worthless, I don't deserve shit, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, this is not the vibe, you know.
But you grew up with Black Christian music.
I know.
That's I have to interject
that. I would live
like,
and die on the hill that is
gospel.
The greatest music.
Yeah. Absolutely. Gospel I can get with. I found gospel as an adult.
Yeah.
there were some beautiful hymns, and I really like, I get moved by the spirit when the swell of voices happens. Anna's also a choir nerd. I know you do. We went down a whole journey.
lead singer of the praise band.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
My church.
Yeah, I grew up with my grandma having like a baby grand and an organ, and like
like for real gospel, like that was happening.
And this is why the mega churches, this is what they do. They basically have professional every Sunday
productions.
Yeah, Amber Flame and I actually recently pretty much killed a party by busting up a song of like 90s contemporary Christian music hits. Not, I think if we'd started singing gospel, the party would have gone on.
I mean, you know, if we had bust out some Aretha and, you know, like started, but like, and those are the things that I reach for now. That is very much a cultural thing that I'm like, I'm claiming for myself in the same way that I found like Black poetics and everything else Black. I was raised by a white woman in Arizona in the 80s. So like there was a lot of, I didn't have TV or you know, like it's so interesting to feel the gaps, right? And to me, because I didn't listen to a lot of contemporary gospel, like I went back to the like, you know, the roots. I sing the blues, so I studied like the old gospel. And what'd you say?
I said like Mahalia.
Yes, Mahalia. I mean, and even like, I mean, up until like the 60s and 70s, it was still like a block of, it's sort of like Christmas carols, right? There were like the block of Christmas carols that you're going to hear renditions of. And then along came Mariah Carey and stirred the pot, right? And so like now people are trying to come up with new ones, but ain't nobody need to hear a Destiny's Child like Christmas song. And a lot of the newer gospel has that same propagandist thing. So I just started from the back, and like as I moved towards current, it feels like a study. It feels like a study in jazz or the blues or anything like that. Like it's a study in form. And it is super powerful because it does have that history behind it. It does have like the cultural connotations of who sang this and why and when. And that is stuff that like I like literally geek out on.
It's almost why I like almost considered going back to seminary, like not even within like a year or two ago, because there's a part of me that's just like, the Black church is like where I'm from, you know, that's like my culture, my lineage. Like I come from preachers and like, you know, organ players and all that shit. And there's a part of me that's just like, why should I let those motherfuckers take that institution from me?
Yes.
You know, it is mine, you know. But like also like the whole Christian part. Like if I can like have the
he said, but also the whole Christian part.
Yeah, I'm just like, I don't know.
I don't know, guys. Maybe we need to start a church.
I mean, I think there's something that happens when when it goes to mass belief. It's going to get somebody is going to take charge as an ego thing, and it really has to be individual language.
Even in the teeniest of churches. Of
course, right.
It doesn't,
somebody's going to posture as leader because we don't do communism. We've tried. You know what I mean? Like, do you think, Anna, that you could start a church and remain holy?
Holy.
I would have to do like the most absurd.
What the fuck is holy? You'd have to do the most of what?
Just define the word.
Church. Like we're gonna come together like once a month and read some books and drink some champagne, and that's church. You know, like sit under the trees or something.
Or like a poetry reading is practically church.
Yeah,
I think a lot
it can be.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, like congregating. I mean, I was gonna ask you guys, like, how do you? Because I don't know. I feel like how rare it is to have this conversation with other writers. But like, do you feel like this experience informs your writing? Obviously, it forms your writing because like this book wouldn't exist without the form and structure of Song of Solomon. Right. And Breezy, so much of your writing is like peppered with, you know, the sacred. How else? I mean, do you feel like it informs your writing life, your process, anything else?
That's a great question.
I mean, I still listen to a lot of gospel music.
Why you write?
And I don't know, not necessarily, but like while I'm thinking about writing, you know, and like I have a lot of poems that are like in conversation with gospel text.
Mhm.
And I'm often like, when I listen to gospel music, I talk back to it, like there's the popular song, like He's an On Time God, and I'm always just like, on time when? On time where?
You don't always come when I call, and you're
No.
not always on time. Like, no, bitch,
No.
where?
Yeah. Or like, God will
That's
take
funny.
care of me. I'd like to see it, but I'm not sure, if I'm being honest.
I'm waiting.
Yeah, I'll wait. I'd love to be proved wrong.
I will accept all
Yeah.
prayers and salvations. Thank you.
Yeah. And so I think I like push back a lot against
Mm.
gospel,
Mhm.
and like it's a way of being in conversation with like older parts of myself, and like
Ooh,
also with like the culture that raised me.
that's beautiful. I
Mhm.
love that. I often with poems and sometimes with songs, it really does like my God is the muse now. Like I call it the muse, but like I get a word
Mm,
and the idea is there and I'm like and then off I go to like try to capture the
it is
moment.
magical.
It is magical and it feels very much like the same of like I've always as not humble as I can be, I always have been really aware that I'm a vessel
Mhm.
for whatever idea, creation, inspiration, whatever flows down, and that we're like all being filled. Like it's not mine until I make it mine, until I like produce it. So I got to do
Mhm,
something with it for it to be mine. And until then, I'm just like, I know that if I hold on to an idea for too long, I'm gonna see it out in the world, and I'm gonna be like,
mhm,
that was mine for a moment, and you didn't take it.
mm.
If it's a brilliant idea, I've been mad about some things. Like I'm telling you, man, I can trace back to when I started wearing jumpsuits. I'm just saying, and it was impossible to find them. I was about that jumpsuit. I can trace back to it. Anyway, I'm saying I have these moments where I'm like, I just need to do this thing, or I need to experience this cloth or something.
Mhm.
And like, it's like a zeitgeist moment. I feel like I'm getting tapped by the spirit.
Mhm. The spirit's
And
moving.
so, yeah, but it's like, but I'm also like with Apocrypha, it was not spirit led. It was heartbreak led. Like I was not waiting for the creative muse to descend, maybe in editing and coming back and like developing the poems. But like, I knew I had a plan and I was going to teach myself some things to write the book. And
Mm,
so that's what I did is I followed my plan and I put myself through my paces, which is how I feel about prose. Like that's part of the challenge is like, I'm like, finding a voice that is not being given to me, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
But my poetry, especially, Breezy, you've been through the other hauntings, like as I've been writing that, it's been a dissension of ghosts. And it's not just the spirit, it's spirits. Like I watched, we went to see Haunted Mansion on a date. It was very cute because I was
mm.
very scared, even though it's a Disney movie and it's based on the
LOL.
Haunted Mansion, right? I was scared, okay? Because I didn't grow up with this shit. So I'm a little sensitive, all right? And I believe, like, actually, my sister pointed out, Lazarus is the original zombie.
Oh.
Jesus is not the original zombie. Jesus created zombies in the first, second place, and we grew up believing that shit. So I got a little scared, is all I'm saying. The coming back from the dead, the speaking from the other side, all that shit is real. And I experience it. Like I feel very sensitive to that kind of movement. Like my kid wanted to go on the underground tour of Seattle, and I was like, that shit is hella haunted. Why am I going to put myself among ghosts? And so I think what I bring back is this sort of like, and now I do it with like witchy shit with crystals and stuff like that. Like this idea of setting your intentions or setting your boundaries or drawing a circle around it, giving a container for it. I think that's really like that is a callback from church of like, you had to be a pure of spirit before they laid hands on people, or you needed to leave because the spirits would go seeking an open. They were hungry spirits. They were going to be seeking an open heart. And so
But
if you
isn't
weren't a
like
believer, you had to go.
all that stuff like in some ways just like a metaphor, because like
Of course.
one thing I've like really like my relationship between like spirituality and like poetry and like even like my own like understanding of my psyche
Mm.
is that like if I believe in anything or like trust anything, it's like a metaphor, you know. But like I think metaphors have power, you know, and so like drawing a circle around yourself is just like a metaphor for a shield, and like it's comforting to your brain, you know.
It's all
And that's like
symbol,
yeah,
essentially.
yeah, and like that's like the link between like that's why like poetry can feel like magic, because you're sort of like speaking and incanting and sort of wielding metaphor to sort of manipulate emotion or feelings or energy or any of that. But it's still just a metaphor, you know?
You're so pragmatic about this shit, and I'm so like I'm so woo-woo. And then we're talking about
I am very woo-woo. It's like
I know you are. That's the funny thing is I'm like, this
know.
is what you're pragmatic about, Breezy? Like really?
I know.
Like,
you're
like, or it's just a metaphor and you're a writer.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
No. Okay.
I see, you get woo-woo about certain. You're like, they're the not understood. Like you are very aware of the not understood. Like that there is other things out there that are not understood. But that's maybe not how you'd put it.
I don't know. I really am interested in the question. I'm more interested in the question of like, what purpose does belief serve? And what would happen if we chose to believe in each other instead? If we put that energy that we focus upward and created communal ties instead. That's more interesting.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I'm totally with you.
How about you, Anna? What about your answer to your question? Do you bring ritual from the past?
I love ritual. I really do. I mean, I've got like a candle, like, you know, the Virgin of Guadalupe on my desk. But even when I start classes, I mean, I just think it's so important. Like I'll light the candle at the beginning of the class, especially for virtual stuff. When like we don't have a way to connect in person, I'll say like bring a candle, we'll all light it at the start. And then close out with like blowing it out together. You know, anyway, keep my tarot cards. I'm so into the occult. Like now that I can do what I want.
Now that you can be as satanic as you like.
Yes.
I know. So I love my tarot cards. I mean, like I say, I'm atheist. I also like am so into mystery, right? Capital M mystery. And I think about this with writing a little bit, like especially having really focused so much on prose, particularly creative nonfiction. Honestly, I set out to be a fiction writer, but it came to me, like the voices came so easily that I thought I was either insane or I was like hearing the wrong voices. You know what I mean? I remember like slamming my computer down, running out of my dorm room. Anyway, so story for another time, but I think part of what I love about the essay, and one of the reasons I stuck with it for so long is like there's this idea of the central question. I'm really like, you know, once I lost faith in God and like went on this mission trip, like, you know, I thought I had the truth, the capital T truth, and I was like bringing the truth, you know, to these people who lived in darkness, as we say, always the metaphor of light and dark. Which reminds me of that line from Breezy's
book. I know. I was just gonna say, Breezy, I just read yours as part of my Sealy challenge, and I was like, I fucking love that line. Like, I no longer trust those who use darkness as a metaphor for what they fear. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Keep going. Sorry, but yes, totally that.
I'm kind of digressing too, but I guess what I'm getting at is like I basically let go of the idea at the age of 15 that I needed to ever know the truth about anything. And like, who was I to think I could know the truth? It's like, look at the stars, how big this place is. Like I'm this, you know, this tiny little speck on the timeline of humanity. So the creative nonfiction essay is like, you know, driven by a central question, and you're just sort of like on this quest to feel out like, where does this question take you? It's a journey, and you don't expect to like land with an answer. I mean, also there's a ton of lyricism and musicality and metaphor and all those things built in. And then I think the other piece of it that just came so readily was like the confessional. If you're writing a personal essay, like this idea of the confessional, like, which I think can be used as a derogatory term. I mean, we say this about poetry as well. But it's basically what personal essay is, right? And I mean, there's this idea of like, you've got to be vulnerable. And I'm like, I don't even know what that means. Like, I was raised to basically set your shame up on the stage in front of everybody, you know, and you build this arc out of it, this story of like, then you had the turning point and like something changed and you know, so Jesus was always the hero of that story, obviously. But I think that form came really naturally. Like, I didn't feel, I maybe felt shame in like the publication phase, you know, I think afterwards, and maybe that's tied up with some of that like pride stuff and other things. But yeah, I mean, we grew up giving personal testimony, you know, so
right.
Yeah.
is that
Some element of confession was part of the thing. You had to confess your sins for the salvation. That's so interesting, the comparative, because like Breezy and I have talked about this too, of like, I'm like your unabashedness, Breezy, about being a confessional poet. You're like, call me a confessional poet if you must, but like, I know why this is important, and not just to me, not just to my own confession. And I think that's definitely a way in which I've been super challenged by both of you in all the writing that we've done together, is that there's this like, there's an intimacy, Breezy, that you allow in your poetry that I'm not comfortable with. And I like seriously just read your book and was like, what is it? Like, I was having that moment of like, it's not the I, it's not that, like, I'm like, I write these and I can't, I don't know. There's something that you do that is that brings it so like we're smelling your breath. We're right here. We're in your nose. You know what I mean? Like, and it's so, it's unrelenting. Like, it doesn't let us go. And I'm like, or be free.
If I suffer, we all go.
We all go suffer. Right. Ain't no fun if the homies can't have none. If we all going down. Yes, exactly. And so we're like drawn inexorably down this path with you. And it's really, and so the release each time when there is one is the same breath that you're taking. And I'm like, or you can be free to fly. You don't have to carry. It's fine. You know, like there's something that I'm not, like I was writing an essay and like one of the instructions was you pulled away right when you pivoted. Like you mentioned grief and went bleep, 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 and flew away. And I was like, well, I just assume everybody knows and has heard this thing about and my mom died and blah, blah, you know, like, and so I like dashed in 3 lines about like, well, my mom died and then my mentor died and then Prince died and that kind of fucked me up. And here we are back into the essay about after that, you know? And that's what I'm learning from Anna. Like, so I'm like, okay, you want me to write some fucking prose? I'm gonna need your fucking help because you're an expert teacher and you have that same, like, I'm thinking about the photograph, sorry, the project that I've seen most recently with these little things and like the one, just like the way you talk about blood, the way you talk about earth, the way, like, there's such a scary intimacy. And like, what I think is really funny is that I'm reading these Apocrypha poems and I get to be a persona. So they're like these beautiful, I got intimate in these poems because it's fictional. And so like, I'm like, maybe I just need to be a fiction writer. I love fiction. I read fiction.
I feel like persona is a really good way to get close. Cause I started that way too.
Just true. That's true. You did.
Yeah, my first book is all persona poems and it's a whole bunch of mama drama, which is hilarious.
Because then your second book, it turns out, was up in the nose of the mama drama.
Yeah.
Smell it.
Who has mama problems? Not me. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, maybe that's the entry end. The fiction was the entry end. But I feel like I'm being drawn along this. What is it? I have a magnet of Lucy from Peanuts. Not Lucy. Peppermint Patty's friend, Marcy.
Oh, yeah.
And then I feel like I'm being drawn into a web of iniquities. Like it's just like, the more I hang out with these writers, like I'm finding why I'm drawn to, like why I was drawn to Gabriel Garcia Marquez, like magical fiction. Like I want that sort of like darker than reality, but a metaphor for how dark, like a true representation of how dark reality is, because you bring in the fantastical, like that metaphor, like you're talking about, Breezy. Like I'm thinking of Nnedi Okorafor's work and N.K. Jemison's work, and how like this extended fictional story is giving also like a metaphor for how we like Broken Earth trilogy is about racism also,
Yeah.
as well as this other world and this other thing happening and this other redemption. It's wild. But I feel like if I can find a way to get up in the nose of the confessional, that there is like, yeah, I don't know what I'm scared of. I keep thinking I'm doing it, and then I read your shit and I'm like, so I wrapped it up in a neat little bow, I think is what Anna said. I was like, open this up a little bit, stay here for a minute. And I'm like, but it's uncomfortable, it's at the end.
But just think, you're not going to be uncomfortable alone. You get to make everyone else uncomfortable with you. And you're already uncomfortable is the reality of the situation.
Like really Bleeding Gums Murphy. Blues ain't about making you feel better. It's about making everybody else feel worse.
There you go. You're there.
Okay.
I mean, maybe at the end of the process, we might feel better. Who knows? But that's not my job.
It's not my job. Wow.
Throwing truth bombs, Breezy.
Wow. So Anna, are you going to come back to that project, the like essentially somewhat fictional historical fiction memoir situation?
I was technically calling it a testimony, and it exists. I stepped away, and I've been working on this other book, and then last year I wrote the screenplay that I'm really excited about. And I guess you can't escape this stuff no matter which genre you run to, because my first screenplay is set at a religious theme park. So
there you go. There you go.
So
don't get your ass one way or another.
I know, exactly. I'm having a lot of fun with that right now, and part of that is like getting to inhabit these different voices that I really close myself off to at a much younger age. So
you're coming back to fiction.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Fun.
That's really, really fun. I'm telling you, like around my birthday, I was in Baltimore at City Lit, and I was listening to Carmen Maria Machado reading an excerpt, and I fucking love her work. And I was like, I keep surrounding myself with fiction writers. I read fiction a lot more than I read poetry, for sure. I mean, I've caught up, but a lot more than I read poetry on a regular basis. I love fiction. This is all fiction. Like there's very little nonfiction. I have a hard time with nonfiction, though I'm getting better. And through memoir, which is interesting because that's confessional writing. But yeah, I'm starting to, I think I'm gonna be a romance writer, romance mystery novelist.
I love that.
That's where the money is.
But well, A, that's where the money is. And B, like, I'm really curious about this conversation around love that people really want to have. It's been really cool to, one way or another, we're talking about like abandonment issues. We're talking about commitment issues. We're talking about what taught us, like how to love and how to prove ourselves worthy of love. And it's like, I think it's a question that I'm just really curious about, and I can only have it in conversation with other people. Like it doesn't happen just in my head. And so I've like created this tool by which I can ask this question. And I love asking, are you the lover or the beloved? And as I'm signing book, and like the response is everything from like, oh, I'm the lover, or oh, I'm the beloved, like that full confidence, immediate knowing, to the like, I mean, I would, like that, like really thinking about like, I would like to be, but I'm not comfortable with. And right there, we're already in a conversation. And I like to imagine it's like planting little seeds of like what we really want to talk about, which is Breezy, like you were saying, how do we come back? How do we, what would happen if we choose to believe in each other instead? I love that. And I think that's like one of the root questions that is coming out of this is like, we got to allow ourselves to be loved. We've got to allow ourselves to be held beloved and to love others and to be insistent, maybe not aggressive, but insistent in loving others. And that's really scary because people, as previously stated, are trash. So, finding your people and like loving them. And I was just talking to Anna about how several of my friends, not you, Breezy, but several of my friends are like driving me insane right now. Like, and how it's nice to be hanging out with somebody who's not driving me insane right now. And but I love them, And I don't need them to not drive me insane. I just need to hold my own beloved boundaries of like, right now, this is what I have to give and no more.
Mm-hmm.
And what a beautiful lesson. Like, I'm not saying, you know, I'm not quoting Kanye and being like, Yeezy taught me, but Jesus didn't teach me, but maybe that was a portal. Yeah. So we're going to wrap right now, but I want to ask Breezy, how are you feeling? You feeling in your beloved? I know you posting like shirtless selfies. Now you got your new phone, whatnot. You got your shady Twitter and whatnot. Are you feeling beloved? You feeling lover? What you coming with?
I don't know. I feel like ideally one is both, you know? I feel like it depends on the day you catch me.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm asking. Like right now, in this moment, how you feeling? Because I agree. I think you have to be both.
In this moment, I'm feeling you better love me from a distance. I'll take offerings though. You can bring me things.
Ooh.
Things or send me things.
Your baby. You're beloved. You're like, I'm beloved and I'm happy in my own home. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I will accept gifts.
Yes. Gifts are welcome. Just take note, y'all. Take note. What about you, Anna? You feeling in your lover phase with your carpenter arms?
I was also going to say beloved. I think it's just too damn hot to feel like, you know, to feel like the lover.
Get off me. That's too much work.
Let me go away and write you a letter.
Yeah.
I'll send you a postcard.
That's very lover, actually. That's what lover does in Apocrypha. Is goes away and it's like, I'm still thinking about you, boo.
Yeah.
But this full moon elsewhere.
Yes. What about you, Flame?
I love this question. I am fluctuating wildly, but only because I want to be vengeful. Like Virgil's like, my kid's like, you should be in your villain phase, and I got my first gels, you know. So I have this like great manicure with pointy nails. I never had pointy nails. I'm a lesbian, like never. Also, my nails just break. So I'm feeling like, how do I step into a villain phase? And it's feeling a little petty up in this bitch. So I'm feeling a little like, let me go out there and like sow some seeds of discontent. Let me be a fuckboy lover.
Okay.
Nice.
But like right now, I'm also tired and it's Sunday and I've been drinking champagne. So I probably will just take a nap.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody coming here, is what I'm saying. Like,
wait, were you at church drinking champagne on a Sunday? Church.
I mean, it sounds like church, right? Body of Christ, you know, blood of Christ, whatnot. It's even pale pink.
It's perfect.
Thank you all. Of course, me and my friends can stay on and talk forever. And you all made me think about some things always. Thank you for joining me. And thank you for those who have stuck around and listened. This will be on a playlist on YouTube, the Apocrypha Virtual Tour playlist. So check it out. And the other conversations. I had a great conversation with Rachel McKibbins and Elena M. Ellis and Michael M.J. Jones. And coming up next week is Anastasia Renee. We're going to be talking about all the research that went into stepping into a new genre and trying new things as a writer. And then we'll wrap up this series with Arisa White and Era D. Matthews on the 10th of September. So stay tuned. We got 2 more conversations. Thank you again for joining us and tell your friends. Thanks.